Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and this is a tag for Tag Tuesday. You heard that right. It's not Tag Wednesday, it's Tag Tuesday. And I'm going to have two videos during the week, this week. So I thought Tag Tuesday is the perfect opportunity for my first one. And then I'm going to have a different video on Thursday, so stay tuned. This is the Finish the Book tag, and I was tagged by Micah Cummins. I will link his channel and his video down below. I love watching Micah's videos. I love looking at the books that he reads. He reads a lot of history, a lot of Russian history, a lot of nonfiction, and so I'm really enjoying his channel. And if you haven't seen his channel yet, check it out. So he tagged me in the Finish the Book tag, and neither one of us was able to find the originator of the tag. So whoever you are, if you're still out there, thank you. But I can't find anybody to give the credit to. So let's just go on to the prompts. And this is one of those simple tags where I don't have to pull books or have a book to hold up. It's basically just chatting and answering questions. The first one is, do you keep a list of the books you have read? Yes. I use Goodreads, and I've considered transitioning to Storygraph, and I do have an account, but I've played around with it a little bit, and maybe I'm just, I don't know, too crotchety or too stubborn to make a change at this point, because I have so many friends that I follow on Goodreads. And I think as clunky as Goodreads is to use, it's super clunky. I still use it to keep track of my reading. I'm so ambivalent about it. I don't want to keep talking about it. Prompt 2 is, what stats do you record? I let Goodreads do that for me. I'm not really interested or concerned in the types of books that I'm reading because I'm always aware of that. I'm not interested in kind of separating it out by genre. What I usually look at is, I look at the quantity of books that I read. I do pay attention to that. I don't announce it typically, but I also like to see what rating I gave to my books. And I also like to look at the year in books. Goodreads has a whole page of the year in books. So you can look at the previous year. And I think at one point, I haven't been able to find this lately, but usually you can see your books for the current year that you're in. And so I like to look at that. And I don't know, the other thing that I like are when Goodreads shows me how many of my other friends have read the same book that I just read or am reading. I like looking at that. But what I will do is towards the end of the year, I will open the stats and it'll show me for the entire year the little clip of the book cover and what I rated it. So I'm looking at how many 5 stars I had, how many 4, and so on and so on. And statistically, the majority of my ratings are 4 stars. So I like keeping track of all that information. Prompt 3 is a continuation. Do you do star ratings? I do. 5 stars are the best. There's a lot of irritation with Goodreads because they don't allow you to do half stars, and it would be really convenient. But you know, if I am going to rank a book a 3.5, I will put that in the body of the review field. I don't, you know, I'll make a note of it in that field. And if I will round up or round down. So there have been times when I've clicked on 3 stars and then I've written in the body of the field 3.5, rounded down. Or if I've read a 4.5 star book, I will click on 5 stars and I will write 4.5 stars in the field, rounded up. And typically it's just as it sounds. If it's more towards a 3, or if it's more towards a 5, or if it's more towards the lower or higher of that number where it's at the midpoint, that's what I will click on for the number of stars. So yeah. And you know, the star ratings on Goodreads, it's so subjective. To each of us, a 3 star could mean it's not that good of a book, or it could mean it's a good book, I liked it. And Goodreads assigns a description of each of those star ratings, but it's just completely subjective. For me, a 3-star book it's good. I enjoyed it. A 5-star book is I had a very visceral, emotional reaction to the book. And a 5-star book is either just such a satisfying story and I love the writing, or it's just such beautiful writing, made me feel emotional, made me feel a little broken up, whether I've cried or not. I haven't cried very often reading books, but that would be a 5-star. But for everybody, every reader, it's different. So, you know, it's always subjective, and that's just the way it goes. There's no other way for me to use the star system. Number 4, do you review your books? I do on BookTube. I used to review them on Goodreads, but I didn't review every book on Goodreads. I would write comments, but if I wrote a long review on Goodreads, it was because it was either a really horrible book or a really great book. And some of my written reviews are still out there on Goodreads, but I don't do it anymore unless I write like a 1-sentence, this was trash or this was amazing. But I do all of my reviews on video now on BookTube, and it's much easier for me to talk than it is to put my thoughts down in a Goodreads review field. I don't love doing that. And sometimes, if I feel that strongly of a book, I will go into a plain document and write out my review and then copy and paste it into Goodreads, because I want to be able to craft it, and I want to be able to make sure there's no spelling errors or grammar errors or anything like that. So, number 5, where do you put your finished books? On my bookshelves? I have a red folder in Goodreads. I think everybody does. I move them there, but physical books, I put them back in my bookshelves. When I'm done reading them, I make a pile on my nightstand, and I'm not going to show you my pile because it's pretty big right now. I have unread and books that I read and books for BookTube reviews. But typically once I finish a book, I put it on my nightstand because I know that I'm going to review it on my channel. And my Bookish Week on Saturdays are, among other things, are for the books that I finished in the previous week. And then when I'm done with that, I put them on the shelf. Unless I want to just get rid of them. If I don't like a book, especially if I DNF a book because I really don't like it, I usually get those right out of my house pretty quickly. I put them in a pile. If it's a 3-star book and I don't feel the need to keep it, but I like it, I will also donate that book, or I will possibly give it to somebody who I feel would really enjoy it. I keep the majority of my books, and all my books have a place. I don't typically have piles of books. On my dining room table, is kind of like my grand central, and I do have a few piles of books when I've bought them and I've taken them out of the boxes. They kind of sit there for a day or two until I catalog them. I have a catalog system on my phone, and I will scan them in, and then I will find places on my shelves where they have a home. So, prompt 6, how do you pick your next book? I pick by mood unless I'm reading for a theme. I'm doing the BookTube Prize in nonfiction, so I kind of know, I have a lineup of the books that I need to read by a certain time. I don't typically do TBRs. Once in a while, I do a light TBR light, but I don't work that out very long in advance. I'm usually a mood reader, and what I will do is, whatever genre of the book that I've just finished, I will almost always go for my next book in a very different genre. So if I finished a classic, I might go to a mystery. If I finish a mystery, I may go to literary fiction. If I finish literary fiction, I may go to nonfiction and read a history book. So that's typically what I do. And sorry about the camera. I usually just shop my own shelves because I've got plenty of books. These are just a couple shelves And I have plenty to read, so I'm shopping my shelves and I'm looking around my rooms, and that's how I pick my next book. And the last prompt, number 7, do you have any rituals when you have finished a book? No, I don't have a ritual. When I finish a book, I usually let it sit for a minute, and I think about it. I think about, you know, what I usually think about is what are the terms, what are the words that come to mind to describe that book? A lot of times I will write them on the inside page, the title page of the book, so that when I am reviewing it on BookTube, I have those trigger words. And I just finished a book for the BookTube prize where I wrote a couple of phrases that I really must use during my review because I'm not going to tell you why. But it struck me that much. And I didn't want to forget those thoughts. So I wrote them on the inside of on the title page on the inside of the book. Other than that, I don't really have any rituals. I like to put the books in my read pile that I'm getting ready to kind of review them towards the end of the week. And I think for me, it's a visual trigger of how do I feel about those books and what do I want to say about them? And I go through my mental list, and I don't know if this is a ritual or not. This is just what I do. I don't consider it a hard and fast thing, but it's a visual. So I'll sit and I'll look at that pile and I'll ask myself, what did I think about the writing? What did I think about the characters? What do I think about the author? And did it provoke an emotional reaction? And that's also what I do when I'm giving a star rating. And I normally will do the Goodreads star rating almost immediately after I finish a book, unless it's for the BookTube prize, or if it's for a buddy read, I won't do my star rating right away until I've talked to my buddy. I have prematurely given a star rating to a book group book, and my book group friends have been like, what did you do that? You're not supposed to tell us what you thought before the meeting. And I've gotten into some trouble by doing that. I just did that with the book Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. That was our last book group book. And I put my star rating about a week in advance, and some other members of my book group were getting their closing arguments ready to refute what I thought about the book. It was actually quite funny. So we have some disagreements, but typically I hold off on giving those star ratings. Other than that, I don't really have any other rituals. I almost always start a new book immediately. Almost always, unless it's a book that I just can't stop thinking about. And I remember distinctly when I finished Red Comet by Heather Clark that I just sat there and I just sat and thought about it. The thoughts were rolling around in my head. I didn't want to start anything else right away, and I didn't. I mean, I waited maybe a day. But even if I've got several books on the go and I finish one, I will usually pick up another one pretty quickly right after that. And don't usually suffer from reading slumps. So that's it. That's the finish the book tag. This has been going around for a little bit, so I'm not going to tag anybody in particular. If you haven't done the tag, you are tagged. And I would love to watch you recite your answers. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video on Thursday. Bye.